I don't understand.
Water.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am back in the host chair once again. Coach Steve with you here. Today, guys, we are talking about some bounce back players, and we have a fantastic crew on tonight. The whole coaching staff is finally on at once together. Took us about 2 months, but we finally did it. Coach Gibbs, as always, what's going on, brother?
I'm good, man. It's been a long-awaited podcast. Back on the analyst chair like that. So yeah, it's been a good time off. I'm ready to get into the pod and spirit, get nailing this redraft season, and take home some chips, baby.
Absolutely, can't go wrong with a good chip. And we obviously got Coach John. What's going on, Coach John?
Nothing much. Another beautiful Monday with the coaches. It's I'm excited to be here. This is fun. This is bounce back players, everybody's favorite topic. You want to see the people who do well.
Yeah, you want to have those underdog stories or rebounds, sensations there. So, and of course, we have our guest, Mr. Jorge Martin. How are you, my friend?
Muy bien. Thank you for having me. This is awesome. I always love the coaches. You guys are and I love the growth. John, I've been on with you and with the Rum Boys a couple times, and just it's really good to see the crew all together. Jibs, as always, un gran placer. Thank you. I love the flag in the backdrop.
Yes, baby. Yes.
And Coach Steve, I always got a soft spot for the Dolphins.
I appreciate it. I do, of course, too. And it's been hurting me many years. So
hopefully not much longer.
Not much longer. Hopefully not. 2022 could be our year. I don't know. But we'll take a grain of salt with that. So, but guys, we are talking bounce back players today. So I will pull up our slideshow for the day here. And of course, like I said, bounce back players. We all going to have 2 bounce back players each. We're all going to talk about and kind of, little debates about, if we all agree if they're bounce back material or not. So news wise, again, there's really not too much going on. Mr. Fitzmagic retired. God bless him. He was a great time in Miami for 1 year. Jimmy G is excused from mini camp. Deshaun Watson had another lawsuit filed against him. Supposedly an NFL decision is coming soon in the next month or 2, but can only hope. And Dalton Schultz could skip camp. I don't know if anyone wants to mention anything. Again, they're really not too crazy, but I'll give you guys the floor for a few seconds if anyone wants to mention something.
The Browns suck. That's all I have to say about that. That's all I have to say about this. The news from today. The
Browns is pretty good.
Brown. I actually thought Schultz though missing camp could definitely have an impact on Cowboys early on in the season. I would think.
Yeah, I would say so. I think he's playing on a franchise tag. I believe he signed it, but obviously he wants that long-term deal, of course. So I did see a tweet that said, how funny would it be if Deshaun Watson gets suspended for 17 games and Baker comes and has to play, and he does play, and he wins Super Bowl for the Browns, and the Browns then have to cut the only person to help them win a Super Bowl because obviously you paid Deshaun Watson almost $200 million. So that would be a typical Brown moment in the NFL world. So
you couldn't write a better movie if that happens. You couldn't. It would be impossible.
You could not. It would be the funniest thing ever. Yeah. But like I said, yeah, not much in terms of the news today, guys. So we will get started on our guest today. Jorge, bounce back players. You have 2. And I'll let you start with your first one.
I did.
Saquon Barkley. Tell us about Saquon.
Well, right there in your backyard in Jersey. I mean, I really like Saquon this year. I picked him up in an underdog draft in the 3rd round, and I'm just like, I just felt like I should have gotten, should have been gotten caught for stealing, because it was just like, it was such a deal, such a bargain. I mean, this is a guy, I think people are going to put that injury prone label on him. And it's like, well, you put 2 sprained ankles sandwiched around in opposite years, in 19 and 21, and then you had the ACL in 2020. So the ACL, definitely serious injury, but he came back and he was trending in the right direction last year. And so and when he came back, people are talking about like he wasn't his usual self. Well, you know what, coming back from an ankle injury, it's still, I mean, we've all had sprained ankles. We've all had, badly sprained ankles, and it takes at least 6 weeks, sometimes 2 months to do that. And that's half a football season right there. So, people are saying, oh, Devontae Booker look better. You know what? You're going to see a different Saquon because of that. There's also the fact that he's got a full year since, I mean, this will be his second full year since his ACL surgery. So a lot of times those players really come back to their previous level. He's still 25 years old, and he's getting a head football coach, Brian Dable, who he developed Josh Allen, made him a stud, but ran one of the greatest offenses. And one of the things that I was looking at the way Devin Singletary got used last year, when they committed to him as a workhorse running back. These are his touches from week 15 on. 23 total touches. This includes receptions. 23, 17, 23, 21, 19, and 14. They used him as a bell cow back. And I think what's going to happen, they've seen that. Dable has seen that. They had good results on that. I'm looking for Saquon to be the guy who gets he's going to be pushing 20 touches a game, I think. And coincidentally, one of the backup running backs in Buffalo happens to be his backup running back this year with the Giants, Matt Breida. Matt Breida, over that span, he got 0 touches. So he's just there for insurance. Saquon he's just gonna, bust out this year. I mean, I ended up with the underdog in a puppy draft. I got him and CMC in the first 3 picks, and Pitts, sandwich during Pitts. So it was just, I almost said, okay, I'm going to get one more running back and then just call it a day and just go wide receivers and the rest of the way. But yeah, I'm pumped. I love Saquon this year. He's one of the guys that plus also, I almost forgot, they upgraded their offensive line this year. So they added Evan Neal, Andrew Thomas, really took a step forward last year during the season. So you got 2 bookend tackles. They added a couple guards in later rounds in the draft. I think he's ready. I think he's ready to. Plus Saquon, it's his walk year for free agency. So guys have a tendency to ball out in those seasons. So love Saquon this year. Love Saquon.
That is a true statement. They love the ball out when they have to get a big contract coming up soon. And yeah, Saquon has that upside, but there's definitely that fear factor for there. But Coach John, let me ask you, are you on Jorge's side here? Is he a bounce back player?
I am for sure. I think Saquon is a great bounce back. RB32 was where he finished last year. There's no way in hell he's finishing RB32 this year, unless some major injury happens. But, if he's healthy and he plays, 14 games or whatever, assuming he misses a couple due to like bang up injuries, he'll still be inside the top 15 running backs. What makes Saquon so special is his one touch ability. If there's a gap, he can hit that and take it to the house. Jorge mentioned the upgraded offensive line means that he's going to have a lot more holes and a lot more room to make space for himself. And once Saquon gets going, if he hits that edge, he can turn in some chunk plays. So I really like Saquon a lot next year as well. I think RB32 is absolute basement where he finished last year. It's just not going to happen.
All right, Jorge, you got a pass on your first bounce back player here, but you have another one here now, Allen Robinson. And last year wasn't so great for him. He's on an elite team now with the Rams. What can he? Do you have? Obviously, you have him bouncing back, but why?
I had to go my backyard on this one. So I was going to be like, okay, I'm going to be a homer with the Ram fan. I was going to try not to do that, but you know what? I really love Allen Robinson this year. And coaches, have you guys heard that this may be the best quarterback that he's ever played with? Has anybody talked about that? I don't know if anybody's ever talked about that.
Maybe.
I haven't heard
they
that.
actually have, to be honest.
This is disrespectful to Blake Bortles.
Every year besides this year, they've mentioned quarterback. This year they haven't talked about his quarterback, I think.
I tell you, I mean, it's Matthew Stafford, who did have an injection on his elbow, but he's expected to be completely fine by the time the season rolls around. He threw 600 balls last year, and 191 of them went to Cooper Kupp. You know what? That's still more than 400 chances that are wide open. And last year, no one had more than 89 targets other than that no one had 100 targets on the team. I was looking to see because Robert Woods and Odell Beckham Jr., they got there at the, Woods got hurt the day after OBJ joined the Rams. So their combined targets were 117 last season. So it's something where I like the chances for him to just come back, and he's gonna be a great complement to Cooper Kupp. I think it's shaping up like a big season. It's only 2 years ago. I mean, 2 years ago, and actually the 2020 and 2021 seasons, he had over 150 targets both seasons. So I'm not expecting him to be the.
Oh, did we lose you there, Jorge? We might have lost him. All right. He's frozen. If you're on the screen, if you can hear us, all right, you're frozen on the screen. But yeah, when it comes to Allen Robinson, it's definitely somewhat of an interesting situation for sure, because I feel like a lot of people are down on him still, but the talent obviously has been there over his career. But Coach Jibbs, my friend, I'm going to bring this to you. Are you on agreement with Jorge? Do you believe that Allen Robinson can bounce back to his form prior to 2020, obviously, I guess?
No, I believe so. Like, to be completely honest, like, you're thinking about like Allen Robinson. They don't have Robert Woods. They're just basically relying on Van Jefferson. That was the player Jorge just mentioned that had 89 targets. I think if you get a reliable wide receiver like Allen Robinson in there, obviously I don't think Cooper Kupp's getting 190 targets this year. It could come down. I think it could be a little median, but Allen Robinson could be definitely a great receiver. And he's right now in Fantasy Pros ranked 68th overall. So typically you've been getting Woods and Kupp in the 3rd and 4th round, and he's a 6th round pick, 6th or 5th round pick. Like, I think that's priced great, and you could get a steal with him. So I think he's all revved up for the bounce back season with Matt Stafford and that Rams offense.
No, that's a great point. Honestly, you know what? In the last couple of years, we've been talking about Woods and Kupp as like 3rd and 4th round wide receivers that you could double down on if people wanted to have that tandem together. And now that Allen Robinson's there, it doesn't seem to be the same get-go. So I'm confused. So I agree with you guys on this bounce back. But Jorge, you lost it. We lost you there for a second. Is there anything else you wanted to mention about Mr. Robinson?
Well, I mean, I think I started to talk about the 117 targets that OBJ and Robert Woods had last year. I think very easily that could be replicated with Allen Robinson. And I mean, that could be a great wide receiver 3 in fantasy, maybe even a high-end wide receiver 2. I mean, a low-end wide receiver 2. I think, someone that you're getting as your 3rd wide receiver, or maybe your flex position. I think it's great. I mean, the targets are gonna be there for him. I mean, this is gonna be a high-powered offense. I love it. I mean, it's they've still got invested plenty in the offensive line. They're gonna have a good running game. I think this is just. I mean, and Robinson is not gonna have to face the number 1 DB on the other team. So, and this is a guy who was a wide receiver 1. I mean, anybody who wants to talk about him going over the cliff last year, it was injuries, it was COVID. Things were not playing a part with him. So, gosh, and thank you I appreciate you being patient. My Wi-Fi just got wonky there for a second, so hopefully it hangs tight for the rest of the way.
Well, hopefully it does. Like I said, we want to keep you here. So, but yes, you had another pass. Jibbs agreed with you on this bounce back for Mr. Allen Robinson. So you successfully 2 bounce back players. Hopefully we get to see them actually get back to those forms we've loved in the past. So we are on to our next person here. Coach John, your bounce back players. And we'll start with Rashaad Penny. Now tell us how Rashaad Penny is a bounce back player to you.
So to me, this comes to the definition of what is a bounce back player, right? Like what do you define as bounce back? But I define Rashaad Penny as someone who is a bounce back player because he was battling injury for so long. He was highly touted coming out of San Diego State. Everyone loved him. The landing spot was great. We all wanted Rashaad Penny back his rookie year to be something amazing. Well, he wasn't, and he ended up getting banged up. Following year, we fell for the hype again. His ADP was high, got banged up. Now he's basically written off for dead to the fantasy community and doesn't do anything. Props up in the middle of a season and all of a sudden goes on a 6-game, 7-game tear where he becomes this top 5 RB and he's an absolute stud. And to me, and everyone goes, oh, look at this league winner coming out of nowhere. In my opinion, no. This has just been a really long bounce back. This to me has just been a really long bounce back. This has been a health thing. This has been an organizational thing and this is him getting to become a pro. He was a young prospect. If you remember, he came in the league at 22. He's still right now only 25. He'll be 26 halfway through the season. So he's a younger guy. Don't think that he's been in the league for 4 years. So he's got all this tread on his tires. He really doesn't. He doesn't have a lot of carries. He doesn't have a lot of work behind him because he's been injured and stuck behind Chris Carson. I think that this is his backfield. I think Ken Walker comes in and complements him really well and complements what he does really well. Kenneth Walker is, sort of a little bit more through the tackles. He can catch a pass in the flats. He can do some other things, whereas Rashaad Penny is your home run. Rashaad Penny is your lightning. He's going to, hopefully you put him out there and you set him up in a run and he, rips off a big one. He's done it in the past. His longs last year, 62 yards. The year before that, 58 yards. His rookie year, long of a 38. So he can do these long runs and have these big plays. He doesn't need to have this immense volume because he did. He had a ton of volume the last 6 games. And I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to repeat volume to do that. He can get 200 touches, 250 touches in that offense that's going to run the ball like crazy. And I think that he can be very effective with those touches. He had 119 carries last year for 750 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. So if you all of a sudden say he gets 190 carries and gets 20 targets, that's not a lot of work. That's still plenty of room for Kenneth Walker to grow and Kenneth Walker to have work. But I still think that you can have, when healthy, Rashaad Penny can be a solid RB2 with winning weeks.
Okay. I was doing an article trying to do DeAndre Swift. And I was like, oh, DeAndre Swift had like 130 yards in 2 games. Like, how many people really did more than that? And, there was a bunch of people, obviously, it seemed like it. And Rashaad Penny's name continuously showed up on that list last year. So I was intrigued. But you heard that he had a hamstring injury already.
I did. I heard he. Listen. It's not.
Sorry, starting off that.
It's dicey. I'm not saying this is a surefire thing. But also, I think that this early in OTAs and this early and things like that, you never know what is really an injury and what's just veteran rest day and all this different stuff. So I don't read too much in it. But you're right. It did. It's funny. Multiple people let me know that Rashaad Penny was already shaky off the injury start. Listen, if he can stay away from the medical tent, you could have yourself a really good piece, a really good asset.
Of course. So, Coach Gibbs, I'm gonna let you go first on this one. Are you on with John on the bounce back from Penny, or are you not on the train for this?
I'll give him like a 5% stake because of the definition, but other than that, no way in hell. Who's their quarterback? Drew Lock, maybe Teddy Bridgewater, supposedly. I don't know. But bad teams end up throwing the ball. They can't run the ball to be like a sustained offense. So I don't know if Seattle did anything to justify that horrendous offensive line that they had Russell Wilson get like demolished with last year. But and I don't even know. Like they could get in a 50-50 set with Kenneth Walker, but I don't want to be in that kind of murky situation. So like I'm out, but he can technically be a guy who actually does something and is actually on the fantasy radar week in and week out, unless he survives OTAs.
Okay. Coach John, I guess I'll give you the pass on that one. You get a pass on that one, obviously, because it seems like Coach Gibbs kind of could agree with you a little bit.
Nah.
I'm not taking the pass. I'm not taking the pass on that one. I'm taking the L. I
think we all want to agree. I think we all want good things for Rashaad Penny. But
I want good things for him, but I don't know.
I can't trust him enough in my fantasy lineups, that's for sure. So, but I like the effort, John. I do like the effort because I hope that he does have a successful career still. So
a lot of my dynasty teams hope so too. Listen, I'm sitting on a lot of Rashaad Penny.
They got him on RB 36, so he's RB 3. Yeah. I don't know if you guys. He says, "We'll see."
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm not gonna. I love Kenneth Walker. That's why. But nothing more for me though. But Kyle, what's going on, brother? Thanks for tuning in as
What
always.
up, Kyle?
Hope you made your pick in our draft. But Coach John, we're back to you, brother. You have Trevor Lawrence here as your number 2 bounce back. Tell us why Trevor Lawrence can get back to that glory that everyone loved prior to the draft.
So look, I think he can bounce back for 2 reasons. One is the coaching change. We all knew that this was going to be a little bit of a disaster. When they hired Urban Meyer to run that program, and we're like, look, he's just not good at developing talent. He's not good at developing a quarter. He's just not. It's not going to happen. He's going to. And so, what we expected was the greatness of Trevor Lawrence to overweigh that, and pull the Jags out of the depths of hell. And it's like, listen, he's good and he's great and he's talented, but he can't pull a franchise himself. He's not that good that he can pull a franchise out of the depths of hell by himself. No. He needs an organization around him to help him grow and help him become a good pro. I think they did that with Doug Peterson. I think they brought someone in who is going to help him develop and learn how to be a good pro. The skills are there. He can make these throws. We saw a couple dimes. We saw a couple of these on the run cross body throws that everyone falls in love with. He has all the talent and all the arm strength in the world. It's just the system around him. So I think they went out, say what you want. They added Christian Kirk. They added pieces. They added, weapons. So they know that they have to address it. And I think that it's going to be, again, 17 interceptions to 12 touchdowns. That's not happening again. A 2% touchdown rate for his throws. It's not happening again. I think Trevor Lawrence is a better player than that. So we put him in a situation. Jacksonville's probably not going to be awesome, but they're going to be better than they were last year. And they put him with a coach in Doug Peterson, who I think has the ability to coach up a young quarterback. I think that he is going to bounce back off quarterback 22. And again, if last year was a bad season, a horrible season for Trevor Lawrence, then Jacksonville should be happy. The upside is there and the future could be bright for these guys, because I think that, like we said, the yards, just under 4,000 yards, fine. But, he can get there 600 attempts. It's going to come around. It's going to come around eventually.
Where do you project him to finish in terms of the ranking right now?
If I was to do my rankings right now, I probably have him as a top. I mean, it's close without literally going through it. I mean, he's probably in that like 15, 16 range. He's, that's probably where with, again, I think it's only going up. It's only ascending. It's 15, 16, and it's going to again be a 4-win Jacksonville team with no major weapon. Next year they get a top 10 pick and they go add a wide receiver, and now all of a sudden it changes things. And so I think I always look at the lens of dynasty, because that's just the format I play and how I like it. And so for me, Trevor Lawrence is a buy and a bounce back candidate. Redraft, yeah, maybe he's not going to bounce way back from his redraft ranking of 22. You might think to yourself, oh, if he finishes QB 17, how big of a bounce back is that? It's like, it's not that big. But in terms of a dynasty mindset, I mean, I heard people talking about Mac Jones over Trevor Lawrence for a while. And I'm like, come on, like, this is one of the more talented prospects we've seen in, 5 to 10 years. Let's give him some time to grow and become a great prospect. Let's give him some time, please.
Of course. And I know, Coach John, I'm making you work for your picks today. I apologize.
That's okay. No, you're allowed. Listen, I didn't want to give some low hanging fruit for bounce backs. These are 2 players that I genuinely believe in, and I genuinely think will have good bounce backs. And if you're in any sort of dynasty or keeper format, make some offers, because you can get Rashaad Penny for next to nothing, and Trevor Lawrence is cheaper than he was yesterday. So, go knock on the door for Trevor Lawrence too.
And that's what we like here at the Fantasy Coaches. Yeah, so my friend, I was going to come to you, my friend. How do you feel about this take?
Well, I was just, Coach John, you mentioned something, how far he's fallen. Someone was just telling me, like in an industry mock draft, granted it was a mock draft, but industry mock draft, just like within the last month, Malik Willis went before Trevor Lawrence. I mean, come on, what are we doing?
This is lunacy. Like this is
Oh
lunacy.
my God.
This is
I was
lunacy.
asking, how much tequila did those people have?
It must be a lot.
I would take
Wow.
Trevor Lawrence. I want Trevor every Superflex redraft league. I want Trevor Lawrence to be my number 2 quarterback. I'm going to grab somebody else for insurance, but I want Trevor Lawrence as my number 2 guy. I think he's going to break out. I agree. I mean, John, everything that you mentioned is just spot on. I mean, yeah, people can say what they want about the receivers. This guy has all the talent in the world to make sure that he makes that jump. This is when guys make that biggest leap. And, he had all the ability in the world, but he was also, the people at Clemson talk about what a worker he is and how smart he is. I think that's where the biggest jump comes in, and then the body catches up at that point. And I think this offseason he will have done what he needed to do, and Doug Peterson's going to give him the runway to do what to make that jump. And he could end up being a top 10 quarterback if he runs enough. I think he of the year 2 quarterbacks has that possibility to jump into the top 10.
I'm
All right.
I'm right 100% with you, John, too.
All right, you got a pass. You got one.
Woo!
Win.
Take one W. One
All right,
W
I
off
love
the
it.
L.
I love it. I love it.
Pat you on the back from down here.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to Coach Jibs now.
No,
You're on the
hot
hot
take.
seat, Coach Jibs.
I'm on
I'll
the
start
hot
with your
seat.
first one, Amari Cooper, who I made you switch it here. But tell me, why Amari Cooper as your bounce back candidate?
Well, like last year, he had some ups and downs. He exploded with like some games, like especially week 1 with Dallas, and then he had like some injuries. He was kind of vanilla during the midseason, didn't really put up that many points, and he was a little bit more consistent during the ending stretch of last year. But he still ended wide receiver 25 in standard and wide receiver 27 in PPR. Over the 3 years prior to that, this guy was predominantly like a wide receiver like 13, 14. He's basically average wide receiver 15 in both standard and PPR leagues. And I think he could get back up to that kind of caliber with the Browns because Donovan Peoples-Jones ain't it. They went and got him. So like I think especially with Deshaun Watson, obviously pending if he gets suspended or not, I think Cooper could definitely be a reliable wide receiver. Obviously there's risks with it because you never know how long the suspension will be. But if you're counting on like Jarvis Landry's and you're counting on Austin Hooper's targets, there's 120 targets there. I don't think they're all going to go to him, but I could easily see Cooper being in the 80 to 90 range and just being that alpha wide receiver the Browns need, especially on the play action passes with Chubb and Dearness Johnson and Kareem Hunt out there. So he could be that guy for them. And if Watson gets off the hook, dude, it's pretty much fireworks. So like it's your call. You could bet your hand if you want. You could be risk averse, but we saw Landry in 2019 be a wide receiver 12 playing as the Browns. Wouldn't think it, but like things could happen again, guys. So that's why Cooper is a bounce back candidate for me. I think he could probably finish like wide receiver 17 or 18 for me.
All right, let me ask you real quick. Do you take Amari Cooper in drafts or one of the Denver wide receivers?
No. Ooh.
Tough
I
question.
think
That's a hot seat question. That's a hot seat question.
Caliente.
I think I would take. It all depends what the situation is. Like right now, I probably would take Sutton.
Okay, I respect it. Jerry Judy did get his hip or ankle hurt today at practice, supposedly. I saw that. So we'll see. Kyle loves your takes, so you might automatically get a win because of that. But we do have other people we have to ask. So, Mr. Jorge, how do you feel about this Amari Cooper? Do you believe there's a bounce back ability in his game this year?
Oh, very much. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 on that team. A very efficient offense. The big question is how many games does Watson play? Mm-hmm. And I wish I could project that out. There's a part of me that says he's going to miss half the season. So I don't know. It's just going off the tea leaves and everything, but it's even half the season. Is it Brissett or could it be Baker Mayfield as we talked about earlier? No, it'd be pretty nuts. I like him. I think that's why I still like Sutton a little bit better than Amari Cooper just because of that. I think he's going to get just elite targets from Russell Wilson, and he could get close to what he did. I think it was 2019 when he made his year 2 breakout. But that said, I still love Cooper. Even if it's Jacoby Brissett throwing him balls, I think he'll have plenty of run. He'll have plenty of run going on, plenty of targets, plenty of receptions, and a lot of production.
Well, and the best thing about it is if Watson does get suspended, that's jacking the price down. So you get him even deeper in drafts. So that could be a reliable wide receiver 3 turn the season end. So that's another appeal to Cooper.
If Watson gets suspended, I bet you that Cooper doesn't get picked in the first 5 rounds for sure because of that.
No.
But again, we'll have to see. I do like it myself as well. So you do get a W on that first one, but you do have another player here, Lamar Jackson, who obviously we all knew kind of had a down season here, but you're expecting a bounce back from this guy, even though he lost the number 1 wide receiver. So tell us, why Lamar Jackson?
Well, I told myself I wouldn't draft him again after last year, but I'm a junkie and I'm jumping back on the train. And I think he could bounce back. Like last season, he finished QB 15 and he had an injury riddled season, calls and missed 5 games, 6 if you want to count that game where he basically threw 4 passes in week 14. But injuries are part of the game, and given the fact that Lamar uses his legs so much, which is just his appeal, like I would probably peg him as a top 5 quarterback, maybe top 4 this year. Be that bullish, but I think Lamar could play 15 plus games this year, and I think he's gonna have like some of the 2019 to 2010 appeal, 2020 appeal, where he finished QB1 and 10. And if you think about those 2 seasons, like he had a wide receiver 1, it wasn't really real reliable. They had Mark Andrews, good rushing offense. What do they have now? A wide receiver 1 in Bateman. He's young, albeit, but like they still have that wide receiver. Still have Mark Andrews. They still have the running backs. Like nothing has changed. I think Lamar's gonna have to put the team on his back, do a little bit more, and you can see like some of the regression has happened to Lamar Jackson, 27.5 points per game in 2019. He followed that up in 2020 with 22.1, and then 2021 he had 20.5 points per game. I think he could regress a little bit towards back up positively, and I think he could be back to maybe like a 24-point scorer per game type of quarterback instead of being like that guy who's dreadful and kind of giving the ups and downs week in, week out.
All right. I'm a big Lamar Jackson fan, so I do love this pick here. But Coach John, how do you feel about it? Are you expecting Lamar Jackson to be Lamar Jackson once again?
Yeah, and you know what's crazy is the one thing that Jibbs didn't mention is something that I think is pretty big. Both of his starting running backs are coming back from injury, so they're going to need him for the run game. So they're going to need him early in the season, so he can come out like a bat out of hell, play like a man on fire, run the ball, throw the ball, and people who are saying, oh, he lost Hollywood Brown, I think Rashaad Bateman's going to step right up and fall right into that target share. It's not that this was this huge prolific passing offense and all of a sudden you lost your wide receiver. It's like, no, I still have Mark Andrews. I have another guy and they trust in Rashaad Bateman. So he can be my one who's going to get his, 80, 90 targets, but we're a run first defensive team. That's what we are going to be. And so if they get back to that and Lamar starts rushing, for 80 yards a game again, and you're golden. You're golden, and Lamar is going to be a top 5 quarterback. So I think that's really what it comes down to. I think that the Baltimore Ravens are going to run with Lamar because they have to early in the season, and that's going to be a winning part of their success.
Okay, Mr. Jorge, I'm going to let you go as well here. Anything you want to mention about Lamar Jackson? Do you agree?
I do. I mean, I think he's got a QB1 overall potential. He has that. He still has it. I mean, he was that when he broke the game in 2019. I look at him and I just, Jibbs, I know why you wanted to quit him, but it's
hard, man.
It's hard. It's hard. The one thing that really struck me about last year, he added about 5 passes per game, and they still kept their overall rushing attempts just about the same. So that just upped his passing attempts from 25 to about 30. You do that, that's, that is some major possibilities there. He still ran just as much. So, I mean, they kept their overall running, but he ran just as much as he did before. So I think that's why there's that possibility that he could just take that next step. I don't know if he's going to throw for 4,000, 4,500 yards, but I mean, there's still that possibility that he's still gonna have a big season in the passing game to complement another 1,000 yards rushing. Now, Jib, you mentioned he lost his number one receiver. He did not lose his number one receiver.
I said that.
I'm sorry.
He said that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Swapping them.
Yeah, he lost his number one receiver. Now, here's the thing: Mark Andrews is still there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was
number one.
And I just looked. His numbers would have been number 6 overall among wide receivers last year. So he would have been in front of Tyreek Hill.
Amazing.
So that's how amazing he is. And I mean, it's he's still gonna be a baller. He's still such a threat in the red zone. So I think that there's going to be some cheap touchdowns that way, and then he's going to run a few in. So 1,000 yards and like 7 to 8 rushing touchdowns. That's going to put him in the argument for QB1 overall with Allen and Mahomes. And I'm going to throw a guy in the other guy in my backyard, Herbert.
I love that. And not to mention, like, there's still some veteran wide receivers still out there. Like, I know Odell is still injured, but like he could be signed there. Julio Jones could get off the couch one day, stop eating Cheetos, and get his hamstring right, and go play for the Ravens. So they still could have some pieces, guys. So like, don't just sleep right off that offense yet. The wide receivers, at least.
That was awesome. Get off the couch eating Cheetos. That's perfect.
Love it.
Did you see him with beast mode at the fan-controlled football game? Julio,
no.
They were on the sidelines. Yeah, Julio. It was funny.
Awesome.
T.O. went up to him trying to recruit him. I'm like, dude,
No, stop.
Get out of here, Julio. You
don't get your butt on a team.
All right. So Coach Gibbs, look, you got another L there. So congratulations on that as well. I mean, W. Sorry, not L.
I was confused. Excuse me, sir?
W. Sorry about that. W. I'm getting tired, guys. But we still have one more person left. And of course, that's me, guys. My bounce back players here at this point here. And I will start here at the top, obviously, with Matt Ryan. And Matt Ryan, obviously, last year really wasn't that great, especially in the back half of the season. He didn't score a single game the last 9 games over 15 fantasy points. It definitely killed some of my Superflex leagues in Dynasty for sure. But again, he's working with a rookie tight end as his best player, who, again, obviously Kyle Pitts is fantastic, an aging RB/wide receiver, and Cordell Patterson, who was also good. But again, he's over the age of 30. He wasn't an elite player to really keep Matt Ryan from not playing bad. And obviously he did play bad. His offensive line obviously was one of the worst ranked. I believe his best offensive lineman was Jake Matthews, who ranked 58.8 on PFF's lineman rankings. That's not really good at all. And so bad season all around. No run game really. It's just bad. Now he goes to the Colts and he has an opportunity here. And the Carson Wentz last year, who was the quarterback there, he did pretty decent. He had 11 games with at least 15 fantasy points or more. Now, Carson Wentz may have a stronger arm at this point of their careers, but Matt Ryan has a fantastic football IQ. That's one of the best things about Matt Ryan. His IQ is fantastic, and I think he can still throw the ball pretty decently overall. It might not be the same as it was during his MVP-like season, but he's got a decent core around him. I think his core is just as good as the core that he had in Atlanta. I know Kyle Pitts, everyone loves him, but Michael Pittman's could be just as good. And he's got enough weapons, I think, that he can really do something this season. And the one thing he didn't have last year was a run game. You have Jonathan Taylor running the ball probably another 300 times this season here. And you get that play action working. Last year, Carson Wentz play action was ranked 29th in the league. Matt Ryan last year play action with a really shitty run game was ranked 11th and play action percentage completions. So give Matt Ryan this great line, which again, it wasn't as great for pass protection, but they had injuries last year. But the big thing is the run game. You have a run game that the defenses are going to focus on, allowing Matt Ryan to do what Matt Ryan does. Matt Ryan isn't going to be someone who ruins a game for you. He might not be able to win the game as much, but he's going to be able to do a lot more than QB 20 this year. And if things go right, if he ends up at QB 13, 14, I could see that happen in this season here. I know there's a lot of great quarterbacks out there nowadays. Obviously, a lot of young ones that we're all hoping takes that next step. But Matt Ryan can still fling the ball any which way, and he's got a decent amount of pass catchers and a really, really strong run game that I expect him to be able to bounce back to what we've seen in the past for a guy like Matt Ryan. Good, Jibs, you can go first.
Coach Steve, I need to ask you. So, for a redraft league in your 12-team league, and I know how you go about it. It's round 10. You still don't have a quarterback. Are you just gonna just say like, or are you gonna go into the draft saying like, I'm gonna get all my positional players, get some good value, and I'm just gonna take Matt Ryan in round 11 or so, and then call it a day?
See, I think you could take Matt Ryan even later in a 1 QB league, especially in redraft leagues. A lot of redrafts are 1 QB. You could literally get Matt Ryan probably around 12, 13, 14 because everyone's going to take those young upside plays. They're going to take the Trevor Lawrences, the Zach Wilsons, the Justin Fields, the Tuas at that time. You could really get Matt Ryan basically at the end of your draft, and he can end up performing as the top 15 quarterback. That's how good he could be this season here, and that's kind of why he is my bounce back guy.
Would you advise it to your listeners?
I would absolutely. Like I said, I am absolutely. If you're looking to just pile up on positional players and leave the QB to the end, and some people do enjoy going that route. I know you've done it. I've done it before. You could literally get Matt Ryan probably in the last few rounds of your draft, and you have a quarterback that can be consistently putting up between 18 and 20 fantasy points most weeks. Yes,
I stand.
I like it. My only concern and my only fear is the touchdowns because he needs to have big, long touchdowns. Because if they get down inside the 20, they're just going to hand it to Jonathan Taylor. So my only fear is he might have a big yardage year, which Matt Ryan can do. I get afraid that he won't have a big touchdown year, which if you're not a mobile quarterback, it just makes it difficult. It just makes it real difficult. If you're going to have, we watched Trevor Lawrence finish as quarterback 22 with only 12 touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that Matt Ryan's only going to have 12 touchdowns, but there's a world where, he's just struggling. He's struggling to score touchdowns. But for the value, you want to take into account the value. Yeah, Matt Ryan's free in redraft right now. He's free, and you could just throw him in there, and for sure is going to start and get points and be better than Carson Wentz last year. So I'm with you in that aspect of he's definitely bouncing back from what he finished from his performances towards the end of last year, which was garbage, and people thought he was almost out of the league.
Right. Again, even in the first half of the season there, when he had, I guess, most of his players at least healthy or on the team, and the team was actually, I guess, offense was kind of moving the ball. He had 15 touchdowns in the first 8 games. I mean, if you double that, 16 games, that's 30 touchdowns right there. That's a decent season, and obviously a much more in terms of fantasy points than what we saw from last year.
I'll give you a pass. He's QB 21. I think he could definitely beat that shit.
Yeah. If he doesn't, then Matt Ryan is in trouble. He's going to become an analyst faster than you can say Atlanta.
Fox, sign him up.
He's not going to get the Brady money though.
No, goodness, no,
never. Jorge, is there anything you want to mention?
Yeah, I think it's the offensive line. The offensive line upgrade is going to make a big difference for him. I think when he has time, he's a guy who he's going to have a great season. I mean, he's going to have time. He's going to have a great running game, so he's not going to have all the everything on top of him. And Pittman's good. A lot of people are saying good things already in camp about Alec Pierce. So he could, maybe it won't be from day one, but it'll be at some point during the season that maybe he comes out. But I look at Matty Ice to really just take come back to being kind of like that reliable second quarterback, and maybe somebody that you look at streaming, or just kind of go flip flop between a couple guys. Playing a guy against matchups, because look at the fact that he's gonna have 4 matchups against the Texans and the Jaguars. So yes, money. I'll take my chances on that.
It won't be the Saints.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, exactly. No Saints, no Bucks.
Yeah,
and even the Panthers were good.
Yeah, they had a good secondary. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if Carson Wentz at this point of his career can play pretty decently for the most part, I think Matt Ryan can keep it ahead of that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to add one more thing. Carson Wentz had a streak. I think it was like 6 or 7 games in a row where he threw 2 touchdowns in each game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the floor for Matt Ryan to do that for a stretch of the season.
Definitely, especially when they play the division. So
Yeah.
All right, so over to my last guy here, guys, and it was obviously Cortland Sutton, and obviously it's a big thing when you're wide receiver 46 last year. It has to be improved, especially with the addition of Russell Wilson. But I'll tell you what happened last year. You know, Cortland Sutton had to deal with Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, and Cortland Sutton is a guy who's kind of more of that field stretcher, someone you throw the ball downfield and he kind of goes up and gets it. Well, both. You know, Locke was under 30% in terms of deep ball completions. Teddy Bridgewater was under 40%. That's not. Oh no, I'm sorry. They're both Locke and Teddy Bridgewater were under 30%, but Russell Wilson was at 36. Again, that's kind of like the norm in terms of quarterbacks last year. And in terms of play action, I mean, both were under 60. Wilson was at 68 last year. Over the last 4 years, the Broncos quarterbacks combined have yet to throw over 20 touchdowns passing. Russell Wilson has done that over his career. And I think, people say, well, Russ, last year it wasn't that great, but you have to understand that, Seattle wanted to run the ball. Last year, Denver wanted to run the ball. They had a defensive-minded coach. They wanted to play defense and run the ball and play good enough quarterback to get them by, which obviously it didn't work. If Russell was there last year, Denver could be talking about making the playoffs last year. But now you have an offensive-minded head coach who worked with Aaron Rodgers, who, Rodgers wants the ball in his hand. Russ wants the ball in his hand. We've been knowing that for so many years now. And I expect Russ to continue to air the ball out in this new look offense. Again, we loved DK Metcalf last year over the last few seasons because Russell threw the ball to him downfield and he made big plays and did it. Cortland Sutton can do that. He's not the same type of wide receiver, but he can make big plays downfield. We saw it in 2019 when he had his breakout season. Russ had, the fifth most deep ball attempts. I expect Russ to kind of continue that trend going into this season with more of a hopeful pass-happy offense here. And Cortland Sutton, I think that if he stayed healthy for the most part last year, Jerry Jeudy, if he were to get hurt once again, I don't expect it to be the same result. I expect Cortland Sutton to really take that next step there in that offense with a guy like Russell Wilson at quarterback. So Cortland Sutton, I expect a big bounce-back season from him.
Yeah, I got a massive bounce back. I got I don't think anyone's gonna sit here and argue the latter. Listen, 100 targets last year and 2 touchdowns, or 98 targets and 2 touchdowns. That to me jumps off and says, yeah, that's gonna change, especially with the addition of Russell Wilson. So yeah, if he becomes a 7-8 touchdown guy, then all of a sudden, yeah, it's massive. So I think Cortland Sutton and I don't know, I'm not gonna speak for the other two, but he has top 10 potential in him that at wide receiver 46 last year, I don't know too many other guys that can bounce back that high. But Cortland Sutton is, to me, that character. He can do it.
Anyone else would like to mention something?
I would say like Cortland Sutton, like we seen when he had, I don't know who was the quarterback before that, and like when
Joe
he was
Flacco.
by himself.
Flacco,
when he was by himself. Yeah,
Yeah.
Like when he was by himself, he was like a pretty dominant wide receiver. And you did mention Jerry Jeudy's injuries. I think they'll all fluctuate. Like I'm not saying he's going to be a lock and loaded like wide receiver 1, but like if he could reach like the wide receiver 2 and be a consistent one, like I think you could definitely make your money on Cortland Sutton. And he went to rags to riches. So Russell Wilson, baby.
Yeah, I think I love him this year. One other reason is it's his second full year coming off ACL surgery. So that's when guys are back to where they, getting back to where they were at that point. It's still a really young guy. I think he's barely 25 or something like that. I think. Let me see.
Sounds about right.
I just called him up. 26. He just turned 26.
He's a little older, unfortunately.
But still, I love that fact. I mean, he's healthy. Upgraded quarterback. I think it's, we could be looking at like 75, 80 receptions and 1,200 yards and like 6 to 10 touchdowns. And that's going to be a huge season. It's people are really talking up Jerry Jeudy because they want Jeudy to become something to make them feel better for 2 years ago when he got drafted, but which I think he's still going to be excellent, but I think they're forgetting Cortland Sutton and he's going to be good, really good. Muy bueno.
Muy bueno. That's what I'm hoping for. So But that is going to wrap our show up tonight, guys. We all gave you guys bounce back players, all 4 of us. A lot of fun. Sorry, John, you're the only one that didn't get doubled bounce back. Maybe
I knew Rashaad Penny was going to get. I knew that was going to be an iffy one.
We had to have something to disagree about. That's great.
Yeah, I like the disagreement. That's good. So I like that. People are high on other people, and I love that about doing this on the show. So love that, John. Mr. Jorge, you were a fantastic guest as always, my friend. Always a pleasure having you on our show. If there's anything you want to go out there and say right now, the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, actually, I just posted this morning and talking about ACL injuries. I did a feature story where I interviewed Dr. Edwin Porras, and I put together a feature story on kind of like the outlook to all those receivers that had late season ACLs: Robert Woods, Chris Godwin, Michael Gallup, OBJ, all these, and a couple of the rookies who are coming in, Jameson Williams and John Mechie. Just talking about those injuries. I think, just hopefully splashing some realism or some reality into all the people who are saying, "Oh, he's way ahead of schedule." So got to trust the science, trust the doctors. So that's why I went to Edwin, mi amigo. Absolutely. But yeah, check it out. I put it out on my Twitter. Again, it's Jorge Martin 17. Guys, I love going on with the coaches. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'll always jump on with you guys if I can.
Absolutely. We appreciate it as always as well. We love having you on. All right, man. So again, if you guys haven't already following him, please do so. We would really appreciate it. Coach John, my friend, anything you want to mention before we go?
No. Follow Jorge. Read that article. Listen, one of my good amigos in this industry, one of my good amigos in this game. Follow him. He's super bright and he's a happy person to talk football with. So that's all I have to say about today.
They can't go wrong with that for sure. And Coach Gibbs, anything you want to mention before we go?
Not at all. I just gotta wait these 90 days, man. I need football, man. There's nothing on for baseball.
It's not coming long enough.
You got some football, man.
I don't even have my football over here. Like I'm fiending, I'm jonesing.
Yeah, I can't keep doing dynasty leagues. So please, football, come closer. So I don't have to do any more dynasty leagues this year.
Best ball.
That's fine. I'm waiting a little bit long before I start getting the best ball. I have some money on Underdog, not a sponsor. But yeah, best ball is a good way to keep your drafts going if you want to put money down. So, but we thank you all for listening. As always, please go check out our website at www.thefantasycoaches.com. We have articles popping up there. We have some new segments going on. We're going to be doing some short videos eventually real soon here. We have our staff articles that are popping out weekly. So we'd appreciate if you check those out as well. And if you ever want to give us a follow on Twitter at Coaches Fantasy, please do so. We're always popping out things there and letting everyone know what's going on with us at the Coaches. So we thank you guys all for listening. Tune in until next time and have a great one, guys.